crochet crowd. Inspire, create, and celebrate. Let's learn something.
Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey. In today's tutorial we're going to focus on this pumpkin. I am going to do the largest size. There are 3 sizes in this particular pattern. You can actually download this pattern if you wish. Go to the video description and you'll see a link to that or the pinned comment. So what we are going to do is focusing on this. We are using puff stitches. Currently in 2026, the trend for pumpkins is to make them colorful using self-striping yarn. And so what I decided to do is that I'm obsessed with the Red Heart Super Saver Bitty Stripes in the color called Unicorn Mane. And I thought, well, that's kind of fun. Let's try it. So what I wanted to do for myself is that when you use this type of yarn in the self-striping, when you have the end of a round, it can cause a jog of the colors. So the colors here are actually going in a continuous spiral all the way around. So the difference of the original video that was filmed over 10 years ago is that we did the slip stitch, we did our chain, and we continued on. In this particular one, I want to do a continuous revolution right to the end to make this so that there's not an obvious line when you're going to do this. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get yourself started on this. We are using a 4.5mm size G crochet hook to play today. You can also use a 4mm size F6 if you wish as well. And because I substituted the yarn from the Lily Sugar and Cream to this, I decided to go up a hook size to 4.5mm size G. 4.5mm is also US 7. So what I'm going to do is get yourself started. I know that this pattern works because I filmed it before, and we're going to begin our journey starting next. To begin this journey, you're going to need a stitch marker. In my case, I just use spare yarn because I always have that around. And we're going to begin like this. Even if it's a solid color, you can still use the concept that I'm showing you. So I am breaking the rules in the sense that we're not going to be slip stitching at the end of the round. We're not going to start with the starting chain. We're just going to go around and around like a record player. For those in the new generation, that was something from our past. So we're going to begin with a slip knot. Okay, and then we're going to chain a total of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I need you to slip stitch then to the beginning to form the center ring. So just slip stitch into the beginning chain and just keep that tail wrapped around that chain work so that it gets stuck underneath so you don't have to sew that in later. Let's officially begin the first round. So the continuous round is established on round number 2. So in the first round here, we are going to chain 2. We need to just build up a little bit. And in the center ring, you're going to do 8 half double crochet. So we'll count those out together. So we have 1. Just go right up over top of that straggler. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, here's where I want you to do something different. So because the half double crochets, this will pucker, but it's going to pucker in a positive way for the pumpkin, which is what you're looking for. So I need you just to pull up a loop, pull out your hook, grab the stitch marker, whatever you decided to use, and just pull it through the last stitch. And every time you complete a round, I need you to move the stitch marker up. So just let it fall up, and then you are ready then for round number 2. And that's what we're going to begin next. So the continuous round starts next. So in order to find the first stitch, what I recommend is to come back and count it backwards. So count from here. So 1, and you need the 8th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the 8th one back is the first stitch. So what you're just going to do is place in 2 half double crochets into that stitch. So 1 and 2. Notice that I did not chain 1 to start. I'm going in a continuous round now. So now you're going to place in 2 half double crochets into each of the stitches all the way around to the beginning of where that stitch marker is. So the stitch marker is representing the last stitch of a round, and that's where you want to finish each and every time. So you don't hear me counting out my 8 because I trust myself, but if you don't trust yourself, you can count out 8 stitches that will have 2 half double crochets in each. You will notice is that there is stitch counts on the pattern if you want to download that, if that makes you feel better. Okay, so the stitch marker's in, that's the last stitch. There will be 2 half double crochets in there. So just for stitches and giggles, I am going to automatically move up the stitch marker to the last one so that I can see the last stitch of a round. But I also want to verify that there is only 16 stitches altogether. So I'm going to count backward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So 16 is the right number. So I know that going forward, I'm going to always be in alignment. Let's begin round number 3. Going forward, I'm going to give you the instruction to go all the way around, and then I would demonstrate it and then give you that instruction, and then you'll meet me back. And at the end of it, you're going to move that stitch marker up and have it ready for the next time that I come back. So we're going to begin. The next one is going to be a puff stitch. Okay, so it's easy to do. And here we go. So we're going to wrap the hook going into the next stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Don't be too tight with that. So yarn over again, go into the same stitch. Yarn over, pull through. And you need to do that one more time. So yarn over, same stitch, pull through. So you got a big clump of mess going on here. So what you're going to do is just yarn over and pull through everything. But you're not done. You're going to chain 1 to lock that so it suspends it. So when you're using these stitches in the future, if it says a puff stitch and a puff stitch, you're going right here, okay, right here, right above. So the next stitch that you'll have is a half double crochet in the next, which is right here. So I'll demonstrate one more time. So going forward, the next one will be a puff stitch. So wrap and in, pull through, and wrap and in, pull through, and wrap and in, pull through. So you do that 3 times. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through everything, and then chain 1 locks it so it suspends it there, and then the next stitch is a half double crochet. So the half double crochet stitches are going to be where the pumpkin is kind of compressing, and these things are going to make the pumpkin push outward as the iconic look. So I need you to continue that all the way around, and on the very last stitch, move up your stitch marker, and we'll begin round number 4 in a moment. So I'm coming around on number 3. So just coming up, the last one is a half double crochet. So here's the hint, is that the last stitch of the rounds is always just the regular stitch. It's not a puff stitch, if that helps you to know that. You can let me know in the comments if tips like that are helpful. So we're just going to pull up the stitch marker, and that will conclude round number 3. And now round number 4 is going to be fun. You're going to notice that the back side of this, the puffs look better than they do here. So this is one of the projects where usually I crochet like this, right? And then I come around, and this is considered the right side, the outside of it, but I like the other side better. So I'm focusing on the other side being the visible side when you're going to display this. Let's move on to round number 4. Round number 4, in the puff stitch, so this here is like a chain 1 to lock it. So right here. So let's move on to round number 4. You automatically want to go here, but that's not where the stitch is. It's right here. So when it says to do a puff stitch in the puff stitch, you're going and playing right here. Okay, this here is just coming from the last stitch over. So you're just going to put 2 puff stitches into the single puff stitch. So what we're doing is we're causing an increase. So pull through everything and chain 1. The puff stitches can be a little bit tricky, just so you know. So that was 1 puff stitch into the puff, and we need to do it one more time. So coming back into the same stitch, another puff stitch. So on this particular pumpkin, it's the puff stitches that are doing the increase, not the half double crochets that you've been applying. Once you pull through everything, chain 1 to move on. The next stitch is right here. This is a half double crochet into the half double crochet. So here's the repeat pattern. So it's going to be 2 puff stitches into the puff stitch. Don't forget the chain 1 after those, and then the next puff stitch is also in there. This is an easy to follow along pattern, by the way. Chain 1 to lock it. Okay, and so then right here is the half into the half. So I need you to repeat that around for number 4, and I'll be right back in a moment. So coming up around on the end of number 4, I'm going to leave another tip with you here, which I noticed when I was doing another sample, is that if you don't see the stitch that is on top of it, it means that you probably did not chain 1 after you did a puff stitch. So it's kind of missing. So that's something you have to decide if you want to improvise to make it look good, or you want to frog it back, which means to rip it. So if I don't chain 1 and you just automatically go into the next stitch, then what happens is that that is missing. Okay, so the top of that stitch is missing. It's right here. Okay, so in the very last stitch here, right where it's marked, is the last stitch, and that's a half double crochet here for round number 4. So move that stitch marker up, and let's begin number 5. Number 5 is again another increase. So it says to put a puff stitch into the puff stitch, a puff stitch in between the 2 puff stitches, and a puff stitch into the next. So this turns it from 2 puff stitches to 3. So you notice you had 1, 2, and this time it'll be 3. So let's put a puff into the puff. So see how I missed it? I want to stay within the suspension of that chain 1. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. Once you start opening up the stitches, it gets easier though. Okay, pull through, chain 1 to lock it, and then the next puff is in between the 2 puffs. So if you just spread them out, just go between the space. Okay, and then a puff into the next puff. Anybody remember Puff the Magic Dragon? That's what it reminds me of. So once you have that last puff in there, chain 1 to lock it, and then it's a half double crochet into the half double crochet. So this is the vein lines that stay kind of sunk, and these will pop out. So to repeat this again, you're going to do a puff into the puff, everything, chain 1 to lock, puff in between the 2 puffs to create an expansion, okay, chain 1 to lock, and then a puff into the next puff. So you really, my friends, are just focusing on each section. So there's 8 sides of this particular pumpkin. And now it's a half double crochet in the next half. So please repeat this around for round number 5, and I'll be right back in a moment. And you can start to see, especially on the back side, how these are popping out as well. I'll be right back at the end of this round. Coming to the end of number 5. It's the last puff and the last puff, and don't forget that half double crochet into the last stitch. This will be the last time you're using a half double crochet in between the areas. We're going to be switching to single crochet to cause this thing to start bubbling out like the iconic pumpkin shape. So if you haven't seen it happen yet, that's because it hasn't. We're going to begin now round number 6. Let's begin round number 6. You're going to place in a puff into the first puff, 2 puffs into the next puff, 1 into the next puff, and then it will be a single crochet instead of half. Okay, so let's put a puff into the puff. Chain 1 to lock it. And now the middle puff is going to have 2 puffs in it. Okay, so there's one into that one, and we've got to do another. So the expansion is happening right in the middle of each one of these. Chain 1 to lock, and then a puff into the next puff. So we've now just increased ourselves to having 4 puffs in a row instead of 3. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1 to lock, and then you were going to apply a single crochet into the half. Okay, and you're going to start seeing it kind of arching out like that, which is what we're looking for. So to repeat this again, there's going to be a puff into the first puff. Chain 1 to lock it. Okay, 2 puffs into the next one, which is the middle one. Okay, chain 1 to lock, 1 puff into the next puff. And if you're reading ahead, you're going to realize that there's only ever going to be 7 puffs in a row once we get this fully expanded out. Chain 1 to lock, and then a single into the next half. See, and you can see it's kind of bubbling a little bit, which is what we're looking for. Continue this around for round number 6. At the end of round number 6 here, we have your 4 puff stitches, and then you have your single crochets in between. You can see it's almost starting to look like a flowering shape. Round number 7 is going to be very drastic, and you're going to see really it starting to pop out, and we're going to go from 4 puff stitches to 7 all within the next round. So there's way too many stitches going in, which is what we're looking for. So what we're going to do is that you're going to apply a puff into the first puff. Okay, don't forget the chain 1 to lock it. Now you're going to do a puff in between the space before the next puff. So we're doing an increase of a puff. Those ones are easier to slam in. Chain 1 to lock. You're going to do a puff into the next puff. Okay, chain 1 to lock. And now a puff in the space before the next one. So this is another increase. Puff into the next puff. Puff in the space before the next puff happens, and this is another increase. Chain 1 to lock, and then a puff into the final puff. So we've just gone from 4 puffs to 7 because we placed puffs in the 3 spaces that were empty. And now you're going to single into the next single. So this is going to cause it to really come out like that. So you can see that there's 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's your goal, is to make sure that you have 7. I'll repeat one more time. So a puff into the first puff that you'll run into. Chain 1 to lock. Puff in the space before the next puff. Chain 1 to lock it. Puff into the next puff. Chain 1 to lock it. Puff into the space before the next puff. Chain 1 to lock it. Puff into the next puff. And I need you to really verify that you have 7 puffs in a row. Once you get this done, puff into the space before the next puff. chain one to lock, and then puff into the final puff of that side of that pumpkin. Chain one to lock, and then a single into the next single. Okay, so there is your repeat. So you've gone from 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 7. So please do this all the way around for round number 7. So at the end of the round, you were just single crocheting into the single, and you were going to move that stitch marker up. So the growth of this is now officially stopped. However, it takes several rounds before the final size will actually appear because it's got to relax. So as we move on to round number 8, round number 8 is going to get repeated 10 more times after it's done. So I'll show you round number 8 and we'll get that done, and I'll be right back in a moment. So round number 8, we're no longer increasing any puff stitches. There will always be 7 in a row. So you're just going to place in a puff stitch into a puff. And you keep doing that until you get to the separation between the groups. Okay. So puff into the puff. And so this is going to cause it to relax and grow out even more. So if you're unfamiliar with crochet, when you do round circles, especially for hats, it takes several rounds before it gets to the size that it's supposed to be, because the stitches have to relax on top of each other. So what I would highly advise is that we know that there is 7 puff stitches in a row, that we just want to randomly check to make sure that there's 7 as you do this round. Make sure that you did get them all if you didn't count before. Okay. So it's kind of easy to just see where the puff is. If it's in your hands, maybe not so much on camera, and then puff into the final puff. So I'm just going to scan it real quick just to make sure I did get 7. Chain one to lock. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you see how they're more spread apart than they were here. So then you'll single into the single and then keep on doing that around. So continue this around for number 8. We'll talk about the repeating and finish this video segment for today. At the end of the 8th round, just one single into the final single. Move up that stitch marker. So this is where I'm going to leave you in today's tutorial. So what I need you to do is just to go back, see how it's buckling up. We don't mind that because it's going to create that shape. So the single crochets are going to make it kind of flower in like this, and it's going to make this bulge outward. So what I need you to do is just repeat the last round 10 more times. So just check it off on the list, and then the next video what we're going to do is pick you up from that point after the 10 are done, and we're going to start doing the reduction in order to make this complete. So get this done, and when that video is ready, it'll show up at the end of today's video for you to click and go forward to the next one. I'll see you then. Have a great one.